Welcome back to On Texas Football. It's time for this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. I'm Jeff Howe, joined as always by Gerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel, talking plenty of official visits getting scheduled, unofficial visits, and a hoops tidbit to drop before we leave. But before we do anything else, Gerry, let's thank our long-running sponsor here on the Recruiting Breakdown, our good friend Mark Saunders.
Yeah, when it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great? One place that protects it all. Here's some great news as always. Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders serves the Austin and Round Rock area in the entire state of Texas. That means he's the only insurance agent you'll need. You got an ATV, RV, motorcycle to go with your home, boat, and car. Yeah, he's your guy. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. He's not only a Texas All-State agent, he's also a Texas alum. Again, give Mark Saunders a call today, 512-218-8571 for all your insurance needs.
Gerry, let's start with some of the updated visitors, and one that's really interesting, kind of from not really a local kid, but he's from the Centex area. Lathan Wissington, running back out of Waco Midway, rushed for over 1,500 yards, 24 touchdowns this past season in 11 games for Midway. What's the running back picture looking like right now, Gerry, with Wissington scheduling his official visit?
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting, Jeff, because Lathan Wissington was at Junior Day on January 17th, right? He's been on campus multiple times before. And so he's a guy that Texas had offered previous to Jabbar Jalouk. And then obviously Jabbar Jalouk really likes what he's seen from Wissington. Jabbar Jalouk's only offered one running back since he was hired, and that was Sarad Baker when he was going on that magical run at DeSoto in the playoffs. Since then, he hasn't offered anybody. Now, he went out to see running backs around the country during the January evaluation period. We expect some guys to step foot on campus from out of state in March. And once they meet Sarkisian, be around the program for the first time, we think there's a possibility an offer or two could go out at running back from a national standpoint. Right now, it's Landon Williams-Callis and it's Lathan Wissington. I think clearly those two guys are pretty much at the top for Texas. That doesn't mean they're the only guys Texas is recruiting. There's some really good backs. But I think right now, if you look at it, that is where running back recruiting is. Steve Sarkisian, Jabbar Jalouk, area recruiter, all went to see Landon Williams-Callis. Texas went to see Lathan Wissington and a number of other guys in the state in January as well. So we'll have to see where it goes from an out-of-state perspective. There's a guy like a Noah Roberts from Chandler, Arizona Basha High, who Texas was very high on prior to the running back change. Does he come back into the picture with a new running back coach in Jabbar Jalouk, or does that calculus change? So those are some of the things we're going to be looking for. But I'd say right now the two names to absolutely know are Landon Williams-Callis and Lathan Wissington, who's coming in June 12th through 14th.
Yeah, CJ, Lathan Wissington's going to be on campus at June 12th weekend. And going over to defense, got two linebackers from the state of Georgia coming in that weekend, and really three linebackers. CJ, I know you got some intel on another out-of-state linebacker, but three out-of-state linebackers emerging for Will Muschamp right now.
Yeah, it's starting to look like a really crowded position at the moment, right? You still have the commitment from Cade Hawk. He's coming in June 19th. And then you start looking around to where else Texas is starting to see guys come in from the linebacker position. The out-of-state really starting to become something that Texas continues to target. Of course, you go out and you land Tyler Atkinson from Georgia in 2026. Well, Texas is going back into Georgia, it appears, for that June 12th weekend, right? That's Joakim Gouda. That's Jeremiah Culpepper coming in as well. Of course, Jaden Nelson will be coming in June 5th. So there's your four at the moment. And then Texas continuing to survey a lot more of the country and going all the way up to New Jersey. Don Bosco Prep, that should be a familiar high school here, but that's Makai Allen, who tells OTF earlier in the week that later this week he should have his official visit finalized and scheduled to the University of Texas as well. So look, there's five guys on the big board at the moment. It's probably the most advanced position that we've seen in terms of getting official visits scheduled for the summer months. That would be the fifth linebacker already among those 3 weekends, three of which coming from the out-of-state as well.
Gerry, that all three of these weekends in June are going to be big, but that June 12th weekend that may be shaping up to be the biggest of them all. Literally and figuratively, because on the offensive line, two pretty big-time in-state offensive linemen, Brian Swanson and Ishmael Kamara, both scheduled for their official visits that weekend. Gerry, what's the latest with these two guys? And I know, look, offensive line has been a hot topic here on the channel for seems like about 6 months now. How's that offensive line picture shaping up right now?
Yeah, so ahead of those guys, Peyton Miller, the center from Anna, will come in on June 5th through 7th, and then it'll be those tackles. And arguably the two top tackles on the board. I think Demarion Johnson from Tyler Legacy committed to A&M's another one that's very high on the board. But Brian Swanson, he was the first Texas offer on this offensive line class, this 2027 class in this cycle. He was the first way back. Texas has liked this guy for a very long time. That offer came at camp prior to sophomore year. So that's how high Texas has been on Swanson for multiple years now. And he played in the Under Armour All-America game. He's got so much upside. I think with Swanson, I believe Texas leads right now. Do I think it's a done deal? Absolutely not. This is recruiting. This is the NIL day and age. He's going to take some spring visits, I think, to Ohio State and Oregon, potentially some places he wants to see, and then schedule out those OVs. I think along with Texas, Texas A&M and Oklahoma, and potentially LSU are all in line for possible official visits. Obviously, Texas was a lock to get one as they're the favorite. But then we'll see where else this goes from an official visit standpoint. With Kamara, look, Curtis Brown is a distant relative of his, the former Texas star corner and NFL draft pick from Gilmer. Kamara obviously moved to Gilmer. One of the best athletes at his size on the offensive line in this 27 cycle nationally. Texas is going to be right there. He's been on campus before. He has the ability to visit anywhere in the country, essentially. That's the level prospect he is. And I think as more colleges see him, he will pick up more national offers. So I think Texas will be right there at the end of the day for him. They definitely want 2 tackles. I think 3 or 4 is the number on the offensive line in this class.
No doubt. CJ, spring ball's right around the corner. We know Texas, like, especially some of those scrimmage weekends, to bring in guys. We talked about the spring game, but there are times throughout spring ball where they'll bring guys on campus. As far as unofficial visits, I know you had some news break over on ontexasfootball.com on Monday night about an offensive line visitor, but how are the unofficial visits for spring shaping up?
Yeah, we're starting to see a number of weekends start to pop up for visit target dates, if you will. March 28th, we believe, is going to be a busy one. April 4th might be one that they start looking at some of the 28 and maybe even 29 prospects in as well. And then you'll see weekends like March 10th, March 13th kind of filter in as well. We have mentioned a number of guys that already have official visits set up that will be making trips in March as well. Joachim Gouda coming in March 10th. We have Tyler Alexander from Florida coming in March 13th. And then that March 28th weekend, Jerry, I know that we've talked about it a little bit behind the scenes. That's starting to become a big-time weekend. We've talked about Honor Falalevi Johnson coming in from Cathedral Catholic in San Diego for that weekend. Last night, we broke the news that Lincoln Majeo coming in from Oceanside, California, the number 1 interior offensive lineman out of California, will be coming in that same weekend. And then, look, Harrison Randall coming in from North Carolina, all on March 28th. That's an interesting weekend right now, starting to become more and more popular, it appears, amongst some of the top prospects in the class. And then a new name as well, and this is the first time we've mentioned it yet, Ryan Peterson, a 2028 linebacker out of Georgia, told OTF yesterday that April 4th is looking to be the time in which he locks in an unofficial visit to Texas as well. If you're not familiar with Ryan Peterson yet, this is a guy that looks like he's already in college, and he's just now going into his junior season. So worth mentioning, a lot still to happen, and let's see which quarterbacks pop up as well, right? Texas also just extended an offer to Graham Simpson, the younger brother of Ty Simpson. We'll see what 28 quarterbacks start popping in. Of course, Texas has a number of offers already extended to a duo, or I guess 2 quarterbacks out in Florida as well.
Jerry, I want to rewind the clock and go back about a year. And Sark has talked about last offseason coming off of the playoff where everything was just kind of discombobulated. You had the portal, the season went late. You're just trying to do so many things. And from a recruiting standpoint, at least for scheduling visits, and I know, look, having the spring and actual spring game changes things a little bit. But, Jerry, more organized probably isn't a fair term, but it does seem like the ducks are in a row a little bit more from lining up visits this spring than they were a year ago.
Yeah, I think so. And look, anytime you have a spring game, that's going to be very attractive. That's where you want to get a lot of your out-of-state prospects to, so they can experience Texas the fullest way possible, not on a Saturday game day. That's where parents can talk to, or prospect parents can talk to player parents. They can set up those type of meetings. There's more time to be spent with players, I think, around a spring game and kind of see what Texas football is all about. And I think, look, there's 3 major weekends we're looking at. Guys are going to trickle through during their spring break. They're going to go – if you're from out of state, you're going to come visit LSU, a Texas, and an A&M and back-to-back days. We've seen that forever. Kids take their spring break and kind of use it as an unofficial daily visit week of not being in school. But so what March 26, 28 does is they're going to try to bring in a lot of guys that weekend. So is that a potential scrimmage weekend, CJ? We'll see, right? I mean, that they're obviously trying to make that a big weekend. That'll probably be some parents coming down, of players coming down that weekend, so they can position them with recruits' parents at the same time, because we just think of the kids visiting, but it's more than that. And then obviously the spring game weekend's a huge weekend, because then you get to experience Texas in its full. I'll say this too, that April 4th weekend, Texas relays are the 1st through 4th. That weekend, there's going to be some kids too. Now, they can't come visit Texas until after the conclusion of the relays if you ran, but that's another opportunity to get parents and prospects on campus. And then with the official visits, we talked about that a little bit, but now it's starting to come to fruition with our graphic with the OVs, guys. Texas has made a change in strategy in June official visits. They've clearly going to the 3 earliest weekends in June versus the 3 last weekends in June. And I know there's a crossover there naturally. But in the past, Texas has put a lot of their chips in the last 2 weekends in June and a few in that second weekend in June. This year, we're flipping the script on that. It's going to be all 3 of these are lining up pretty interesting. There's top targets in every weekend that we can already see, plus commits. Most of the commits will come in late. Obviously, Cameron Hall's coming in early. But there's been a change in strategy, CJ, from an official visit standpoint, which I think is telling in 2 ways. One, NIL is changing how soon these guys make decisions and how soon it really gets to real conversations about NIL versus late in June and early into July. And I think the other thing, as time's gone on with this June visit schedule, is, we talk to parents all the time at the airport, and they're like, because Texas a lot of times the last visit, and the parents are like, man, we're tired. This process was fun, but we're exhausted. This is like 4 weekends in a row, 5 weekends in a row. We've been traveling. We have jobs. We have a life too. So I think there's a couple of reasons, but I think number one is the NIL decision clock keeps moving forward with these prospects now.
Yeah. And of course, we're still going to continue to see kids commit from between now, the spring, and these summer officials. So, of course, the sooner that you get them locked in, the sooner that they come to, the scheduling side of things, that's, I would say, more beneficial for Texas. It is worth mentioning, and just perhaps a trend for now, but that first weekend, Jerry, looks like it's going to be very heavily involved with the in-state.
Yeah.
Right. And then we'll see how they progress moving forward. That final weekend, as we've seen in previous cycles as well, kind of natures to that of your commits and guys that are very close if history serves itself once again.
CJ, real quick, the number right now, we're closing in on 20 official visitors that at least publicly have locked it in. I've been curious what the number is going to be, because we've talked about it here on the show. Hey, everything's unlimited now, but you don't want kids to show up on campus and feel like they got ignored or anything like that. CJ, what do you think the number is going to be, kind of ballpark figure, by the time this is all said and done?
I think you get up to about 50, maybe even a little higher than that. Texas had well more than 50 scheduled a year ago. Only 44 or 45 took place, right? So you're going to see these lists probably a little bit longer than what actually transpires and how many kids actually show up to campus. It's, you throw a birthday party, you invite 100 people, 75 of them show up, right? People are going to have change of plans or sickness or travel or whatever. They commit elsewhere. But right now, I bet you get upwards of 15 to 20 per weekend for those 3 weekends, and we'll see how many actually show up to campus. Again, last year was sitting right around 44 in terms of guys that showed up to campus, with well more than that having scheduled trips to Texas.
All right, Jerry, we got one tidbit before we get out of here, but before we do that, let's one more time thank our long-running sponsor here on the Recruiting Breakdown and give a shout-out to our good friend Mark Saunders.
Yeah, Mark Saunders, he's the only insurance agent you'll need, whether you live in Austin or Round Rock or the entire state of Texas. With more than 35 years of experience, OTF guarantees you'll be in great hands with Texas alum Mark Saunders. Give his office a call today, 512-218-8571. We've seen a number of On Texas Football community members call Mark Saunders for all their insurance needs over the last couple of years, and he has taken care of those guys in a very big way. Again, give him a call today, 512-218-8571.
Gerry, we talked about international hoops recruiting when Sean Miller was hired, that this could be an avenue Texas explores that they hadn't really before. And as we speak, they've got an international hoops visitor on campus right now.
Yeah, Clark Reithauser. He's from Switzerland, 6'8" wing. He's currently in the class of 2027. He is looking at maybe reclassing the 2026. We'll see on that. I think that's still in the balance. He made an official visit to Nebraska last weekend, and he stayed in the States, and he's making the official visit to Texas Tuesday and Wednesday. So he will be at the LSU game tonight. But a guy that's Sean Miller's had a lot of success recruiting international players over the years, and now international recruiting has gone to just the nth degree level because of NIL. So there, you have to get some guys on campus earlier now, even from an international perspective, when you can. And Clark Reithauser is one of the top wings that's considering coming over to play college basketball and expected to play college basketball. 6'8", skilled, shoots it, really good handler, really good passer. And look, again, Nebraska, OV already happened. He's visiting Texas, and I'm sure there will be a couple more before decisions made. I think the key here for Texas and Reithauser, does he stay in 27 or does he want to jump to the 26 class? I think that could change the calculus, but we'll have to see how it plays out.
All right, Gerry, CJ, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, make sure you get over to the site anytime CJ and Gerry get recruiting news. They're dropping it first over at ontexasfootball.com, and we've got a running list of June official visitors on the site, so make sure you check that out. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whenever we go live or drop a video, you're not missing any of our Longhorn coverage all year round. For CJ, for Gerry, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and until next time, hook 'em.